gods bless you.
Welcome adventurers to an episode in between episodes. In today's additional video there will be no gameplay whatsoever. Instead I want to read the entries in our journal. If you are not into the lore stuff, you can just skip this one and you will not miss anything of the actual game. But to honor the effort the developers put into writing all the lore and background stories, I would like to read up on the journal entries. And I think I will do these from time to time. The books and necessary information on quest though, I will of course still read during the normal episodes. So, let's go into the journal and see what we have. I will not read the quests, because if we need those informations, we will read those during the normal episodes. Plus, I mean, we are playing them. So, yeah, we know what's in there, kinda. And sometimes I want to find out the stuff myself, so I don't even want to read those. We will begin with the locations. Okay, we do that, I think, in chronological order. So we start with the prologue and the La Valette castle. During my travels, I visited the dynastic abode of the La Valette family several times. Anyone who considers Vizima an impressive city is unlikely to have seen the ancestral citadel of the La Valettes. The immensity of the fortress is simply breathtaking, to the extent that calling it a mere castle is either a gross inaccuracy or a jest. Expanded over generations, the walled town boasts the greatest fortifications in Temeria, and perhaps in all the northern kingdoms. The citadel is located near the strategically important White Bridge, which connects the banks of the Pontar. It commands the entire area, including nearby trade routes and the river crossing. No wonder, then, that the rebellion of the La Valettes disturbed Foltest's sleep. Yeah, so I wonder how he could take the castle at all. I mean, we saw that with the village and everything, it was very impressive. And he had to lay a siege on the castle, and the siege was pretty impressive too. So yeah, now we know why there were so many men and so many siege towers and all that stuff. And I think that these texts are written from the perspective of Dandelion. I think that's what I heard or read. Or I don't know where I know it from, but I think it's like that. Let's read about the dungeons of the La Valette castle. During one of my visits to the La Valette family's vast abode, when I had the pleasure of meeting the old baron's niece, a charming creature but 16 springs old, my host, clearly proud of his lands and holdings, offered to show me around the keep's expansive and varied cellars. While he entertained me with conversation and anecdotes on various subjects, including the unique system of penalties designed for seducers of the underaged, I got a thorough tour of the dungeon beneath La Valette castle. The guards were exceptionally polite and seemed to have an unerring sense of direction within the labyrinth network of vestibules, cells and winding corridors. I imagined that without their help, it would be easy to lose one's way there, wandering around for hours, unable to find an exit. I would not envy any soul imprisoned there. We were imprisoned there, so now we know for sure that it's Dandelion. Otherwise that wouldn't make sense. So, yeah. Okay. Let's go into chapter 1, Flotsam Forests. The wilderness surrounding Flotsam was a thick, impassable wood where inexperienced travelers could easily lose their way and fall victim to wild beasts or, even more probably, elven arrows. A rarely used, thickly overgrown route led to Aedirn, but given the forest's dangers, most travelers preferred to journey by river. And that's where we came there, or how we came there, by river. And I wonder if we will see Edirn. So, if we will wander through the thickly overgrown woods. We'll see. We haven't been out yet much. We only have been to that cave where that shady guy imprisoned us. The brothel. Flotsam's brothel was one of only 2 noteworthy attractions available to visitors and locals. Yet, unlikely the scaffold, the bordello kept regular hours, offered a regular repertoire, and had a regular staff. I think we read that before, didn't we? And it's in the inn. Flotsam. Flotsam, a river port and trading post, lies along the upper course of the Pontar among inaccessible forests in the valley that bears the river's name. Numerous trade routes meet here, and the Temerian-Edirnian border is located nearby. Land travel in the region was arduous and dangerous, for Scoia'tael units prowled the woods. However, as they say, elves like cats are shy of water, so most travelers and merchants chose to sail the river. Flat-bottomed barges, punts, scows, and even sea-going cogs visited the harbour, ferrying goods between Edirn, Cadwyn, Temeria, Redania, and Cidaris on the seashore. No wonder then that this ostensibly small outpost was of vital economic importance. He who controlled it drew immense profits from trade. At the start of our story, Flotsam belonged to Temeria, and its small garrison was tasked with enforcing the law and providing protection from river pirates, Scoia'tael units, and monsters inhabiting the surrounding forests. So that's interesting, and I wonder if this trade post really connects all of the northern kingdoms. Why it is not that fortified? It's quite vulnerable, isn't it? And the people are not too rich. And if the trade now stops at the moment because of the Scoia'tael and everything, and that monster that's in the river, that impacts all northern kingdoms. So why didn't they send help immediately? Crazy stuff. And also interesting is that it said that it is or belonged to Temeria at the start of our story. Will that change? We'll see. The prison barge, we heard about that in the last episode. From Lorito was his name, right? I think so. The barge moored in Flotsam's harbour was used as a floating prison for captured Scoia'tael and those accused of collaborating with the guerrillas. In unusually cramped and squalid conditions, the prisoners awaited transport to their final place of imprisonment, and then interrogation and the inevitable news. But we also saw that they don't bring all the prisoners on the barge because they did an execution in Flotsam itself with the prisoners that we saw in the beginning when we came there, where also Dandelion and our dwarven friend nearly got killed. So yeah, they have their own news. Let's continue with the characters. I think they are in alphabetical order? No, they are not. They're divided into main characters and secondary characters. And most probably in the order we encountered them? Yeah, I think so. In that case, we start with the main characters. Marie-Louisa Lavalette. I have chanced to visit the court of the Lavalettes on several occasions in the past. Invariably, I was greeted and received in a manner befitting my name and talent. Baroness Marie-Louisa was a very comely lady, her beauty having fully blossomed, her hair dark, her lips sensuous. As with many women married to markedly older men, rumors about her were plentiful. Among them, one claiming that she had had a love affair with King Foltest himself, and that the monarch had fathered her younger children. And that doesn't seem to be a rumor. I mean, it seems to be the case. That's what the war was all about. Triss Merigold. I have known the sorceress Triss Merigold for a long time, for she is one of Geralt's closest friends. The young, pretty, talented, auburn-haired mage from Maribor hardly remind me of the giggling flapper of years past. Her knowledge, abilities, and loyalty had brought her far. A hero from Sodden, known as the 14th of the Hill, for she was mistakenly counted as the 14th mage to die in the battle, she sat on the royal council of King Foltest of Temeria. And though they say that a monarch's favor is uncertain, for the king had once expelled all mages from Temeria, Triss had managed to gain Foltest's trust. As regards the Witcher, everyone who was witness to Triss's friendship with Geralt, anyone who saw them together would easily confirm that these two had much in common. And it is common knowledge that an old flame never dies. For those reasons, after Foltest's death, the sorceress decided that she would help the Witcher most by staying by his side. Not heeding her threatened position at court, she harnessed all her strength and powers to helping Geralt, whom she still had feelings to. I was not there at the time, but I heard tales of the show of power Triss put on at that beach near Flotsam. Though she was weakened and barely conscious, the sorceress managed to sustain a magical barrier, and the three survived the Scoia'tael arrows thanks to her. Nobody was surprised that Triss knew Síle de Tancarville. A more attentive observer would certainly have noticed the chill in their greetings, as well as Triss's evident dislike of her elder colleague. Yeah, we saw that. They don't like each other at all. So, they did have a love affair, Triss and the Witcher Geralt, before his amnesia, but we also heard of another sorceress that the Witcher was attracted to, so, I don't know about that. Let's read up on Geralt himself. Behold our hero. Subjected to mutations and rigorous sword and sorcery training as a child, he has become a superhuman monster slayer. Always penniless and often disdained by those whom he protects, he wanders the world seeking work. Fate has little mercy for him, piling obstacles in his way, yet he trudges on. He has more scruples than a begging bum has fleas. Doubts haunt him even when a band of ruffians, knives drawn, approach him on the highway. Is he a good man? I do not think so. Does he try to maintain his humanity? I believe he does. You must know that Geralt of Rivia died once already, or at least everyone thought him dead. During a massacre in Rivia, he sought to defend non-humans and fell to overwhelming odds. Placed in a boat, he floated into the mist into a realm where he finally found peace. Not for long, because of forces to be mentioned later, Geralt returned in time to defend the Witcher's ancient home fortress, and then embarked on a mission to recover the secrets stolen from it. Along the way, he took part in a Scoia'tael uprising, shattered a powerful criminal organization, and killed the Grand Master of the Order of the Flaming Rose. All the while, his fame as a lover grew. Well, that's Geralt for you. As if all this wasn't enough, he then foiled the attempted assassination of King Foltest of Temeria, and became one of the monarch's most trusted men. And now, the Kingslayer. Although he tried to save the king. Yeah, well. That's our Geralt. Let's read up on King Foltest. In retrospect, His Royal Majesty King Foltest was certainly an exceptional persona when compared to the other crowned heads of the time. This king of Temeria, prince of Sodden, sovereign of Pontar and Mahakam, and senior protector of Brugge, Angren, Riverdale and Ellender, was a firm and decisive ruler, as I suppose one should expect from someone so abundantly titled. He was the kind of a man who, when hit, made a sound suggesting he was forged of steel and not molded of bird dung. Being unmarried, he led a rather casual private life. In his youth, while still a prince, Foltest strove to demonstrate what he was capable of, and he proved capable of much. The love affair he had with his own sister, by whom he fathered his eldest daughter Ada, is widely known, as is his later affection for Baroness Marie-Louisa La Valette. Both relationships bore heavy consequences, so to speak, and in both instances, Geralt found himself stuck in the middle of the resulting mess. Foltest most certainly still harbored feelings for his former lover and decided to save the children that were the fruit of his affair. He feared they would otherwise become trump cards in the game of politics, tools of intrigue. Once Foltest made the decision, no one and nothing could stand in his way. The deaths of the great and powerful of this world do not always befit their lives. The blow was so unexpected that even the Witcher failed to react in time. A dagger's blade ran across the throat of Foltest, ruler of Temeria, cleanly slitting it, and his blood flowed out onto the floor of the Temple Solar. Thus died one of the most powerful kings of the north, at the hands of an assassin, in the garb of a monk. And we still don't know what happened to the children, do we? Now let's read what Dandelion writes about Dandelion. It is always awkward to write about oneself. Yeah, and now we know for sure that's him writing all those things. Yet I cannot shirk this duty. In an effort to preempt any accusations of partiality, I shall set down the humblest of notes, relating only the best known facts. Dandelion, in reality the Viscount de Lettenhove, though titles are unimportant, is a certified troubadour, a lecturer at Oxford University, a persona known among society as a charmer, poet, dandy, and unparalleled lover. I thought you wanted to be humble. Almost everyone north of the Yaruga has heard of him, and those who have not are either boors or simpletons or both, as a result of which their opinions do not matter in the slightest. Dandelion played a significant part in the most important events of the era. He loved, fought, negotiated, and acquired immense knowledge, even that of the forbidden variety. His works are a testimony of the times, but it is his moving poetic tropes that have brought him true fame. The important thing in this story is that Dandelion was a friend to Geralt of Rivia, possibly his only true friend. He was Geralt's confidant, advisor, and companion in misery, and it was impossible to experience good fortune in the Witcher's company. What Geralt did, Dandelion faithfully recounted, and one should not give credence for those who accuse his humble chronicler of confabulating. Discretion, a virtue I have always professed, obliges me to remain silent about the circumstances in which, through the person of Vernon Roach, I began working with the Temerian Intelligence Service. Suffice it to say that there comes a moment in everyone's life when, facing great events, they cannot remain indifferent. And so I could not stand aside as history took shape before my very eyes. My dedication to the cause brought me to Flotsam at the time. There, through an unfortunate incident involving twins at the local brothel, a town guard, a dog, a cat, and an oil lamp, I would up on the scaffold in the town square, from which I barely escaped with my life. Yeah, only thanks to Geralt, to be honest. Oh, I don't really want to know what happened there. Oh gosh. Okay, let's go from humble Dandelion to Vernon Roach. There is a man like Vernon Roche in every monarch's retinue. Brave and determined, ready to execute any command and thoroughly hated at court, he knows that only allegiance and service to the king keep him in his position. Roche was the leader of the Blue Stripes, King Foltest's special forces, renowned, among other things, for battling the Scoia'tael and quelling many a rebellious non-human community. It was under his command that the unit rose to fame. Vernon earned Foltest's favor and trust through his deeds. One word from the king, and he would jump headlong into fire, asking only how long he was to stay there and hold his ground. That's the kind of man Vernon Roche was at the time. Vernon proved to be perceptive when he refused to flatly believe Geralt's guilt. Too many things needed to be explained, and the Blue Stripes commander decided risking cooperation with the suspect to get his hands on Foltest's real killer. Thus he remained loyal to his king even after his death. Continuing his private investigation, Vernon headed for the Temerian-Aedirnian border, where he expected to find clues to Kingslayer's whereabouts. Thanks to his very best informant, Roche knew that the men could have been hiding among the Scoia'tael located in the vicinity of Flotsam, a trading post. Thus way the royal hound, Vernon Roche, was on the hunt once more. The list of Vernon Roche's achievements and heroic deeds was almost as long as the list of the atrocities and depravities he had allegedly committed along the way. It is a fact that, as the scrawlings on the wall of the University of Oxenford say, pacifying non-humans is like wallowing in mud. Everyone gets dirty, generally with blood. Whew, okay, that's dark. But he is a little bit a dark character, isn't he? Although he seems to be smart. Okay, let's read about the children of the king. No more than a lad back then, Boothie already displayed the pride and obstinacy typical of the Lavalettes. Some, however, attributed these qualities to the fact that King Foltest was his father. We only saw him once, and there he was crying and fearful, but I mean, I understand why. It was a very scary situation. Anais, the daughter of Baroness Marie Louisa Lavalette, was a scant few summers old at the time. Rumors that King Foltest was her father gave beginning to many important events. Okay, that's all. So they don't play much of a role in the game, I think. Or maybe we meet them later on again, I don't know. Vess. We only saw her once in the dungeons and on the ship. She's with Vernon Roche. The fair-haired Vess stood apart from the rest of Vernon Roche's unit, and not only in that she was the only woman in an elite formation of hardened cutthroats and swashbucklers. Her girlish face and shapely body would stand out even if a uniform did not emphasize them. For there's something in soldier women that attracts a man's gaze, and Vess was no exception. The reader should not, however, be misled by this description. One does not earn a Blue Stripes membership with the good looks, but with skill, determination, and at times ruthlessness. Anyone disregarding Vess would pay dearly for misjudging this young woman. Because of her gender, Vess would sometimes receive assignments where her beauty was more important than her combat abilities and efficiency. Roche had used Vess as his trump card more than once. Oh, poor lady. But I hope we hear more of her. I think she's an interesting character. Sheelar Fitz Erstelen. What a name. Many Northern kings appear in this story. Rash and thoughtful, amorous and frigid, brave and cowardly. The reader should easily see that should their crowns be removed and a pitchfork, sword, a bunch of bills, or a goat's apple given in a scepter's stead, they would be as human as we are. The same, however, could not be said of the Emperor of Nilfgaard, the white flame dancing on the barrows of his enemies, whose shadow fell over all the events I have written down. There are some mistakes in the English, isn't there? I mean, it's not my mother tongue either, so who am I to judge? In this case, that shadow was represented by Sheilard Fitz-Urstalen, a consummate diplomat who started more than one war, only to end it accepting homage from the defeated. Yeah, he was with King Foltest. So Foltest at the time collaborated with Nilfgaard. Or at least his diplomat was there for some reason. Yeah. So maybe we learn more about that background story. Aryan Lavalette. Oh, hello. He killed himself in the dungeons. Baroness Lavalette's eldest child, Aryan, was beyond all doubt her and the old baron's son. Raised to be a knight, he sought to uphold the virtues of this state, valuing courage and valor and striving by his every deed to embody them. He must have felt extreme discomfort by the conflict that engulfed him, as at its roots lay his mother's and family's honor, pitted against widely discussed rumors of a love affair between the Baroness and King Foltest. Though the situation was dire, the young knight valiantly commanded the defense of his family's castle, intending to give not an inch of ground. Seeing that further resistance was hopeless, Aryan yielded, laid down his arms and placed himself at the king's mercy. Fate seeks forever to amuse itself, and towards this purpose likes to play tricks. It brought the former foes together once more as both fled the dungeons beneath the Lavalette family's vast abode. Honor prevented the proud youth from fleeing his family seat while it was in enemy hands. Aryan made a decision that meant certain death for himself, but he nevertheless made it without hesitation, sealing with his sacrifice the bloodiest chapter ever in Lavalette family annals. And thus they're all gone, aren't they? What's with the mother, by the way? Huh. She must be in there, isn't she? Maybe not. Oh, that's the mother, right. But there's nothing about her fate. Huh. Okay. So let's read about the fate of the king. Disguised as a blind monk, the mysterious assassin took Geralt by surprise. Displaying immense self-control and lightning reflexes, not to mention a talent for acting, he murdered the king before the Witcher's very eyes. He then leapt out the window of the solar before Geralt could grab him. Surviving the fall unharmed, the assassin fled with the aid of some scoia'tael. The information in Vernon Roach's possession served to confirm what Geralt had witnessed. A man matching the Kingslayer's description had been seen in the company of scoia'tael near the trading post of Flotsam. Finding him seemed like the Witcher's only chance. Yeah, and he's a Witcher too. I wonder from which school and why he murders kings. I hope we'll find out about that. Demavent. Who is that? Oh, right, that's the first king who got killed. Demavent, son of Virfuril, ruled the kingdom of Aedirn, which was mightily aggrieved during the last war with Nilfgaard. A proponent of authoritarian rule, he was seen as having no love for non-humans. He often moved radically against the scoia'tael, though he drooled in spite of himself when the guerrillas perpetrated massacres on his own people. As these justified the punitive expeditions, he delighted in sending into the foothills of Dol Plathana. He also showed no shyness towards imprisoning and torturing rebel-rousers and street prophets who would interfere in his politics. Thus it is no wonder that many could not wait to see him dead. In spite of this, his subjects could not help but be surprised by his death, for it is not every day that a crowned head paints the palace floor with its blood. It was a ship. So either his palace was a ship, or that's wrong. He died on his ship. Maybe he had his palace on a ship? Who knows, who knows? So he was a cruel king. And as far as I understand, King Foltest was not the worst of the kings in the north. I mean, he was a bit special with his private life, but other than that, I don't know, he at least kept his kingdom together, right? But yeah, well, he's dead now. Yorveth. They say all elves are beautiful, that they are born thus. In Yorveth's case, someone set out to change this, marking his face with an ugly scar that the elf partially hid beneath a crimson headscarf. Yorveth was a living legend, the elusive leader of a Scoia'tael unit whose members gave no thought to laying down their arms and continued their war against humans. Stories of his deeds, of his deep hatred of Tuan, painted him as more akin to a vengeful ghost than to an individual made of blood, bone and flesh. Certain sources claim that Yorveth was the Kingslayer's ally and thus involved in recent events, yet Geralt's first meeting with the elf brought few answers and ended with the Scoia'tael archers laying down a deadly barrage. Indeed, it seemed at the time that the elf would only ever answer the Witcher with arrows. In the eyes of some people, like Lorido or Roach, Yorveth was a common criminal, his hands stained by the blood of innocents. Indeed, the list of those he had cut down in his fight for freedom could easily rival the number of ballads, romances, and ditties in my repertoire. Yeah, but I mean, I think he's fighting for a cause. And I think that the Kingslayer is using him, to be honest. And as he might not be the smartest, he doesn't recognize that yet. We'll see. Sultan. That's the name of that dwarf. How could I forget that? The dwarf Sultan Chive is a close friend of Geralt's and mine, met while we were sneaking through the forests and wilderness of Brugge and Sodden, when war raged all around and the hooves of Nilfgaardian cavalry thundered on the high roads. Like many of his kin, he later fought at Brenna in the Mahakam Volunteer Detachment, a unit that contributed greatly to the victory, although this fact is sadly ignored by most chronicles. After the war, he wanted to start a business, and even thought about taking a wife, yet fate had things arranged a bit differently. Sultan had proved his friendship to the Witcher many times, eagerly standing at his side in any moment of need, disproving those who claim that each and every dwarf is a spiteful, aggressive son of a bitch, that they do not care for human plight, and that coexistence is impossible. I know many non-humans, and if anything stands in the way of coexistence, it is human ignorance, spite, and ungratefulness. They say a dwarf would get himself hanged for a friend, but Sultan was in my company on the scaffold for another reason. The local authorities had accused him of colluding with the Scoia'tael, and that is usually enough to earn one the main role in entertainment, like a morning execution. Yeah, why didn't he land up on that ship, on that barge? I mean, obviously so that Geralt could save him, but still. Yeah. Here we are, and we read about Bernard Lorido. Oh, Bernard. At the time of this story, Bernard Lorido was commandant of the town watch of the river port and trading post of Flotsam. He was well suited to the position, amply demonstrating this through his brutal and heavy-handed approach on enforcing the law and meting out justice to the town. This boorish veteran of the Temerian army was perfectly happy with his posting to this backwoods, and he had turned the borderland settlement into a private fiefdom. Fiefdom? I don't know what that is. In her private fiefdom which she ruled through fear and might, passing and executing judgment at him. I was exceptionally lucky to escape the news back then. Despite my deepest desire to the contrary, it would not be the last time we saw Bernard Loredo. In spite of maintaining a smokescreen of law and order in Flotsam, Loredo was as benevolent to non-humans as Emperor Emir was to proponents of democracy. Given the slightest excuse, Bernard would have gladly rid the trading post and its environs of all who were not human using any means available. Much evidence suggested that Loredo was profiting heftily from his position through extortion, unlawful confiscation of goods, and brazen bribe-taking. He would enlist local goons to beat and intimidate all who were uncooperative, and this was very much the order of the day. Loredo yearned for some spectacular success in his fight against the Scoia'tael. Though his prison barge was overcrowded already, capturing Yorveth remained his deepest desire. Ah, we heard of that. So yeah, he's a shady character. I don't really trust him yet. Or maybe never. Depends. John Natalis. It seems that every other person you meet took part in the last war against Nilfgaard. Such are the times in which we live. Yet the best remember those who made their mark in the annals of that conflict. John Natalis, Constable of Temeria, is one such person. Supreme commander of the cumulative forces of the North in the Battle of Brenna, Natalis fought valiantly, commanded wisely, and contributed vastly to the victory, despite being outnumbered by the enemy 2-1. And he did not rest on his laurels after the battle. Instead, he pursued the foe, routing him nec nuntis claris or nearly so, leaving but a few stragglers to flee beyond the Aruga. John Natalis was honored richly for his deeds, and the square in Vizima now bears his name. After Foltest's death, Natalis temporarily served as regent of Temeria. That's whom they spoke of on the ship. And I think we are not there yet, right? They want him to rule, but the nobles are fighting for the throne at the moment. Huh. Okay. We don't have a picture of him. Maybe he doesn't play a role in the game at all. Or only in the stories we hear. Sheila de Tanzeville. I know from experience that magicians are not above lusting for power. Among sorceresses alone, there are many whose ambition leads them pull strings, moving kings and other mighty forces of this world. To command the elements in spectacular fashion, summon genies, bend fate, dictate royal proclamations, or at least to force others to eat chicken with cutlery. That is why magicians such as Sheila de Tanzerville, known as the Corviri Loner, stood apart from the others. Lady Sheila was not known to interfere in politics, at least not visibly, instead dedicating her days to research. Strict, calm and collected, unlike other sorceresses, she did not display her feminine charms. Nor did she flirt with men, jiggling her posterior before them at every occasion. Though, and I must remain true to myself here, the world would undeniably be a much poorer place without typical sorceresses. So, she seems to be a decent woman. The reason for Sheila de Tanzerville's presence in a backwater town like Flotsam was initially a mystery, yet it quickly became clear that she had come there because of the Chiron, a river monster. For sorcerers gladly used the organs of exotic creatures as ingredients for magical preparations, and Sheila was no exception. Sheila's presence also turned out to be a lucrative opportunity for Sultan. However odd that might sound, the dwarf cut gems for her magical apparatus. But we do not know what kind of apparatus it is. Huh. But I thought her to be a shady person too, but she seems to be a quite decent and, yeah, good person. So I hope we find out more about her and her ambitions. The secondary characters, we begin with New Boy. This soldier had acquired an allegedly miraculous amulet and truly believed its power would protect him from any and all harm. Recognizing that the pendant was useless, Geralt informed New Boy of this fact. Grateful for the warning provided earlier, New Boy not only believed that Geralt was innocent, but helped the Witcher avoid the guards, and thus honesty had proved to be the best policy. Which is true sometimes, at least. Yeah, I'm glad we saved him. That's good. Count Edgebury. Before he got entangled in the revolt against Foltest, Sir Edgebury was known for his valor and tenacity as a knight, proving both in more than one tournament, either mounted or on foot. Yet valiance and tenacity were not enough to survive a cut from the Witcher's blade, and thus the brave Edgebury paid with his life for his ill-advised participation in the rebellion. That was the guy the king wanted to shoot with the arbalist, right? But we missed, and obviously we cut him down, and I didn't even recognize him later on. So, well, he's dead. Sorry for that. Arthur Tice. Yeah, that's the priest. Though he would not show it, meeting Tice was a great surprise to Geralt at the time. They met each other in the past in rather unpleasant circumstances, and the knight had a scarred face as a reminder of that meeting. This time, Tice got away cleanly, the Witcher having confined himself to a few acrid words. Did we meet that guy in The Witcher 1? I don't remember him. Was he with the Order or something? Huh. I do not know. But yeah, they didn't like each other much. The Archpriest, the church dignitary, confident in his god's protection, greeted the intruders with harsh words. Yet he succumbed to persuasion and revealed where the king would find his illegitimate offspring. That is very interesting, because when I played it, I didn't recognize that the Axii sign we used on him failed, but by editing the video, I saw that it was written in the left-hand corner. And although the Axii sign failed, he still told us where the children were. So he was in with the Kingslayer. Because if Foltest wouldn't have gone to the Solar, where the children are, he wouldn't have been killed. So the Kingslayer wouldn't have had his opportunity to kill him. So that was all planned out, is my theory now. And that's very interesting that the game doesn't even reveal that in his description. Because here it said he succumbed to persuasion. But he didn't. And he still said the truth. Yeah, I think he was in. He knew it. Maybe we'll meet him again. I don't know. Maybe that's just a little interesting, I don't know, storyline that you can either recognize or not. But yeah, Louis Merce. Oh, and later on, I think in a conversation, was it Geralt who said the Archpriest didn't lie or something like that? When he was interrogated by Vernon Roach? I think Geralt hints at that too. So, yeah. He is suspicious and he was in with it all. He knew that King Foltest would get murdered. And he doesn't even have a name. Dang. Louis Merce. Louis Merce was a typical example of widespread bureaucratic nepotism. It was rumored that he had outright fled Vizima after bringing some unsavory troubles down upon his head. His cousin Loredo then granted him a comfortable position in Flotsam, and Merce saw this as his second chance. They mean this, right? So, what does he do? Well, I think we just met him. That's why he's here in the secondary characters. Einar Gaussel. That name is a reference, isn't it? To some real character in the real world. In addition to being a well-informed bookseller, Einar Gaussel was also an accomplished barber. In discovering this, Geralt learned of the only person in Flotsam who would be able to do anything about his hair. I like the hair! If Lobinden's non-humans had been organized as a community, the dwarf Einar Gaussel would have been the closest thing to its leader. Though the Scoia'tael considered him a collaborator on a human leash, Einar tried to represent the non-human minority as best as he could, even if that meant mediating between its members and the commandant. Furthermore, he ran something akin to a bookshop. Given its location in what was a complete backwater, his selection of titles was quite impressive. Yeah, they are, and they are quite expensive too. But I fear we have to buy them none the way. Margot, the proprietor of the brothel, was a hard-nosed businesswoman, yet she shepherded her flock of girls with almost motherly care. And that's all. I thought there was something behind her because of that letter that we found in her office. Maybe she still has a role to play, but I tried to talk to her again and there was nothing about it. Because it says in the letter that she is collaborating with the non-humans too. So that's pretty interesting. But I think if she would play a role in the conflict, then she wouldn't be a secondary character, maybe? I don't know. Fioravanti. A truly enterprising man, the merchant Fioravanti had found a niche that produced for him a decent income. Though his specialization was extremely narrow, this was the very key to his success, for the secret of commerce is to be the exclusive provider of a certain category of goods or services. Thus, Fioravanti was still in business despite his forced stopover in Flotsam. What does he sell again? I don't know. I think he was one of the merchants at the market? Or was he at the harbor? I don't know, I don't remember him. Gaspar. In Flotsam, Geralt bumped into a pair of strange scholars. Haha, those are the guys that we met in the side street, right? I remember. The alchemist Gaspar was one of them. He and his colleague Farid tried to convince the Witcher to take part in a mysterious experiment on Witcher physiology. The study would only yield results many years down the road. How will we ever know? I'm so curious about that. There he is. In Flotsam, Geralt bumped into a pair of strange scholars. Yeah, the alchemist Farid was one of them. He and his colleague Gaspar tried to convince the Witcher to take part in a mysterious experiment on Witcher physiology. The study would only yield results many years down the road. Okay, it's the same. Arnold. Supposedly involved in a commercial dealings with Bernard Laredo, this man was a frequent guest at the commandant's abode. Is this the guy who told us about the trap for the Chiron? I think so, right? I'm not sure, but I think it's him. Okay, these are the characters. I think we read all the monsters because we read the books, and I think this is the same information as the books. So we don't read about those. But we saw Neckers and Arakas in the little sequence in the forest when we came to Flotsam. And I mean, we encountered a dragon at the Lavalette Castle. So that's about that. These are our diagrams. We can make superb leather trousers. We did those, and we are wearing them at the moment. We can make claws, but we don't have venom yet. We have a Witcher silver sword and a robust Witcher silver sword, which is much better. So if we find some silver ore, we will make that one, not that one. I wonder if we should sell those that we don't need. I mean, now we don't need the superb leather trousers neither, because we have them. There's no sense in making them twice, right? I mean, maybe we lose our trousers, but I hope we won't. That would be weird. The tutorial we don't have to read, I think, right? I mean, we know all these things. There's the tutorial. It's nice that that is here too. But yeah, there are all the things that we learned. First monster. Ah. When did we slay our first monster? I don't know. Huh. I don't remember. What a pity. Ah, and there are all our formula. Maybe we should go through those, because I do not know yet what all our drinks do. But I think I made them all. So, Rook. Rook is especially popular among witchers who believe that killing monsters quickly is their best defense. This potion increases muscle power, and thus damage dealt to foes in close combat. Unlike Thunderbolt, it has no side effects. Rook can alleviate the side effects of White Rafford's decoction, Getwell, and Tiara. Potion causes minor intoxication when imbibed. The potion is recommended for witches who prefer to use their swords in fights and employ signs sporadically. Rook is especially helpful against resilient and heavily armored opponents. So I think that's good for our playstyle, because I do love the sword fighting, and sometimes I just forget about the signs. I mean, we use them quite often, so yeah, we're not that bad in using signs, I mean. Golden Aureole. What does that do? One of the best known Witcher potions, increases resistance to special attacks such as poisoning, incineration, and bleeding. That's useful. The brew also negates the side effects of the Lapwing and Brock potions, while producing no side effects on its own. This is good to know, because some of these potions have negative effects. And I think if we combine them like that, the Golden Aureole with Lapwing and Brock, and Rook with White Rafford's decoction, and Getwell and Tiara, we are better off. So we have to be careful about these things. Petrie's Filter. This potion, created by a student of a famous mage of the First Conclave, is weaker than Stammelford's Filter, but has no side effects. Petrie's Filter increases the intensity of Witcher signs, the impact of art, the defenses of the Quen, the effectiveness of the Irden, and so on. Nice! No side effects either, I like that. Falca's Blood. Falca's Blood increases the maximum damage dealt with a sword. It differs from Whirl in that luck determines whether a witcher using the oil will land a hard or a light blow. This blade grease owes its name to King Ridank's daughter, a rebel known for her cruelty. Falca's Blood is especially effective against resilient and heavily armored opponents. Okay. So an oil. Then we have brown oil. Wounds caused by a blade covered with brown oil do not heal. The blade grease also augments hemorrhaging. Hit an opponent with a blade covered with brown oil, adopt a defensive stance, and stall for time. The adversary soon drops to the ground due to loss of blood. Oh, okay. This oil is effective against creatures resistant to bleeding. Yeah, that makes sense indeed. Cat. Cat is one of the potions witches use most often. After imbibing it, the witcher is able to see in total darkness and will avoid being surprised by any nocturnal creatures. The potion allows its user to see both living creatures and those made of inanimate matter, even through walls. Cat slightly disrupts perception, however, as a result of which its user deals less damage to monsters. Oh, that is good to know. The rook potion can be used to alleviate this side effect. Ah, okay. There's a combination. Okay, cool. I don't like this cat too much because the normal side is gone. We only see the shape of things, or even like an X-ray vision it is, and I don't like that. I like to see the monsters I'm fighting. Samum, a bomb. A Sarikanian invention, Samum found its way north thanks to merchants and was later adopted by the Witchers. The bomb stuns and immobilizes all creatures within range, rendering them defenseless against the Witcher's blade. This bomb is effective against creatures resistant to stunning. Oh, that is pretty good. Swallow. Symbolizing spring and rejuvenation, the swallow lent its name to this potion that accelerates the rate at which wounds scab over and heal. As a universal brew, it is good on many occasions and additionally produces no side effects. The Witcher can use the swallow potion to balance out some of the undesirable effects of potions like Thunderbolt, Maribor Forest, Lapwing Tiara, and Stummelfoot's Filter. The potion increases toxicity slightly when imbibed. It is recommended before long fights. Slow but consistent vitality regeneration will provide a significant advantage over foes. Witches, unsure of the dangers they might face in a given situation, consume this universal brew as a failsafe. Ah, nice. And we also have the balance out. So Thunderbolt seems to be pretty bad. And yeah, Maribor Forest, we don't even have those. Lapwing. I wonder what that does. And Tiara. We'll find out. Tawny Owl. Speeds up the regeneration of Vigor. After consuming it, the Witcher can parry monsters' blows and cast signs more often. The potion is weaker than Lapwing, but generates no side effects. It can also be used to alleviate the side effects of Gatwell. Potion moderately increases toxicity when imbibed. The potion is recommended for witches who specialize in casting signs and those who fight monsters that employ strong attacks, which must be parried. Its low toxicity and virtual lack of side effects make it ideal for combining with other potions. Okay, cool. Dancing Star, another bomb. Witches rarely use fire in combat, as it conjures up shadows that can be disorienting during a fight. However, when facing hordes of monsters, they often set aside finesse in favor of using weapons of mass destruction. The Dancing Star, a bomb that bursts flames, is one such weapon. This bomb is especially effective against creatures that attack in swarms and are vulnerable to fire. It can also be used to ignite the cloud of gas produced by the Dragon Stream bomb. Ah, so one can combine Dragon Stream with Dancing Star. Good to know. But we don't have Dragon Stream. Oh, we have Dragon Stream. I'm stupid. Dragon Stream. The members of certain Sarikanian religious sects claim that Dragon Stream bombs are filled with visions of all-consuming destructive fire, from whence the bomb's name. Upon detonation, the bomb releases a cloud of gas that ignites violently when exposed to an open flame. Clouds from multiple Dragon Streams can ignite one another in a chain reaction that incinerates creatures spread out over a large area. Ooh. Crazy stuff. Okay. We don't have much yet, do we? But yeah, I have to learn to use those combinations. They seem to be very useful. But I'm sure I will forget all about it until the next episode. Now, other. Okay, we go from top to bottom. The Wild Hunt. According to tradition and eyewitness accounts, the Wild Hunt abducts people, forcing them to join its mad gallopade on the sky. Its harvest is especially rich just before or during a great war, like a few years ago in Novigrad, when over 20 people went missing without a trace after the Wild Hunt passed. Some of the abductees managed to escape the cavalcade back into the world of the living, but the stories they told were so extraordinary that they were always considered insane. I hope we learn more about the Wild Hunt, because they are like a red line through all the Witcher series, aren't they? So yeah, that's interesting. We met them a few times in The Witcher 1, so that's that. And we killed the Wild Hunt in the end, didn't we? Or the king of the Wild Hunt. Maybe we didn't kill it. Actually. I don't know. I hope we will learn more about that. Cultures. Dwarves. I think we read that already in a book. So I wonder if all of these are books. No? Maybe only those that have a book on their side. Yeah, that one we read too. Yep, for sure. Geography. Pontar Valley. We read about the Pontar Valley. But I don't know if it was exactly that. If you have but a morsel of geographical knowledge, one glance at a map is enough to know why the Pontar Valley is strategically important. Yeah, we read that. Yep, I'm sure. Edirn. This realm is bordered by Cadwin to the north, Redania to the northwest, Temeria and the massif of the Mahakam Mountains to the west, and Lyria to the south. The Blue Mountains line its eastern frontier. Edirn's coat of arms is a golden red chevron on a black field, and its capital is Vengerberg. Not long ago, the country nearly disappeared when Nilfgaard occupied its southern territories, and its northern neighbor and supposed ally Cadwin treacherously annexed Upper Edirn. Though the invaders were defeated and Cadwin withdrew from Edirn's northern lands, the kingdom's fate still hangs by a thread. The country has been ravaged by peasant revolts, and its central government seems ever unsteady. And now the king is dead, isn't it? Temeria. Anyone who wishes to be considered an educated man rather than a common boor should mention Temeria first, where the northern kingdoms are concerned. The realm's coat of arms is a black shield dotted with silver fleur-de-lis, and its capital is Vizima, where the royal palace erected by King Foltest stands. The country extends its protection to several surrounding domains, including the mountainous dwarven homeland of Mahakam. Currently, Temeria's neighbors include the mighty Redania, the wooded Cadwin, and Sidaris, known for the truly pathetic poetry of Valdo Marx, a troubadour unworthy of the title, for he chiefly devotes himself to besmirching the work of other, superior artists. And there's someone jealous. Two other places in Temeria are essential to our story and thus must be mentioned. Firstly, north of Vizima, near the White Bridge, that links the bank of the Pontar, stands the proud fortress and walled town of the La Valette family. Secondly, further up the Pontar lies the small river port and trading post of Flotsam. Both will provide important to the beginning of our story. And yeah, we've seen them both. Redania. Situated between the Bra River in the north and the Pontar in the south, Redania is one of the north's more important kingdoms. Its coat of arms is a crowned silver eagle on a red field. The eagle grips a golden scepter in its talons, and a small black shield bearing a golden cross adorns its proudly protruding chest. Despite recent unrest, the country survived unscathed and intact the crisis that followed the death of King Vizimir the Just. Dretogor, King Radovic's seat of power, is the country's capital, though the free city of Novigrad is its largest population center. In fact, Novigrad is something akin to the capital of the world, a center and cradle of commerce and culture where an enlightened man can breathe his fill as long as he does so away from the back alleys. Old, musty and scholarly Oxenford, the home of this author's alma mater, is another of the kingdom's noteworthy cities. During the last war with Nilfgaard, Redania joined with Temeria, Aedirn, Cadwyn and other northern realms to repel the invaders, and the Royal Redanian Corps played an important part during the Battle of Brenna. We will see a lot of those towns and cities in The Witcher 3. I'm very excited about that. Cadwyn. The formidable ranges of the Blue, Kestrel and Fiery Mountains define the eastern and western boundaries of the densely forested, cold and harsh domain of Cadwyn, whose coat of arms is a black unicorn rearing on a golden field. The realm's capital, at Ard Craig, was the seat of power of King Henselt, a man known for having a violent temper and pursuing radical policies towards non-humans. The latter could be attributed to the great fact that Scoia'tael units consistently caused great injury to the wooded land and its inhabitants, launching many brutal guerrilla attacks. The local human populace responded with massacres perpetrated on the assimilated elves and dwarves inhabiting the country's cities. And so hatred burned on and blood bred blood. Those who called for peace were accused of treason and often died at the hands of their kinfolk. Furthermore, Cadwyn was involved in an age-old feud with neighboring Aedirn over the territory of Lormark. That conflict cast a pall of relations between the two countries. As you will clearly see, its echoes rang out in this story as well. We didn't hear yet much of Cadwyn though. Politics, and that's about the Scoia'tael, and we read the book for sure. And that is it with the journal. I hope that you enjoy those readings and the background stories of The Witcher here. And I think it's really worth noticing them because they are there and somebody wrote them. Dandelion did. I mean, not personally. But yeah, I like it, and it's pretty cool that the game is providing us with all these stories, and that is why I'm going to continue to read them and make these little in-between episodes. But that's it for this one. On Monday there will be a normal gameplay episode of The Witcher 2, and yeah, I'll be very happy if I'll meet you there. Thank you so much for watching this one. Have a wonderful and adventurous weekend, and goodbye.